On CNB this week, we drive the new generation Toyota Corolla. We also bring you the review of the Splendor iSmart from Hero. Does it really save you fuel? It's the update on the Tata Aria. And as promised, it is the updated A8L from Audi. The new facelifted flagship from Audi, the A8L, is now in India. And we've got more details on this program coming up. We've of course seen glimpses of the car, and as you can see, we've got lots on the show today, don't we? Welcome to a brand new episode of CNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Patnankar. We'll talk about this car in just a bit, but first we've got to talk about that 11th generation of the Toyota Corolla. Now, since the last gen, it's been called the Corolla Altis here in India. That car failed to inspire in terms of being able to excite the market, do anything that was really different or revolutionary. But of course, it did decently well in terms of sales. So will the new car be able to also fire up the imagination of the consumer? Bala spent some time with the car. Here are all the details.
A Toyota like you've never seen before. Now that's quite a tall claim for a car that's a bestseller around the world, but the new 11th generation Corolla does make a whole new impression the first time you set eyes on it.
Now you got to say that Toyota has a bit of catching up to do with the 2014 Corolla Altis, especially with formidable rivals like the Skoda Octavia as well as the Hyundai Elantra really capturing the imagination of this segment. Also in this segment you got to kind of not just impress buyers with a new design, but also really offer something a bit extra that will really get customers talking.
But it could have done way more, really. Unlike the previous generation model, which borrowed heavily from older versions, Toyota has gone the extra mile to give the new Corolla a sportier and more premium image. The sportiness is accentuated by strong lines, swept back headlamps and a longer wheelbase. The smiling chrome grille with the LED headlamps and the sporty bumper with the sleek fog lamp housing add to the character. The profile in the rear look just as good and sporty as the front, and the new Corolla uses 16-inch alloys for added appeal. Our planned drive with the new Corolla in Bangalore was relatively limited. Maybe Toyota assumed that since the engines are a carryover from the older car, we'd be happy with a short drive. That was so not cool.
Now Toyota has carried forward the 1.8-litre petrol engine from the outgoing model. Fairly smooth and powerful, but there's been really no changes onto it. But where there's been some minor tweaks is in the 7-speed gearbox, which is now fairly smooth and refined, and Toyota claims that it's much more fuel efficient now. Also the steering is fairly quick and responsive, and interestingly also has paddle shifters, which makes the overall ride a little bit more fun.
But pushing the car hard isn't such a great idea, because you can feel and hear the engine groan and grumble, and that's even on long straight stretches. But the automatic does cut smoothly through city traffic, and the CVT seems to squeeze out better power delivery when cruising on the highway. Now the diesel.
Now the 1.4-litre diesel engine really doesn't do too much to impress. It is underpowered, a bit noisy, and you really have to work on the 6-speed manual to get more power and especially downshift quite a bit. But unlike the outgoing model, Toyota probably realizes this is probably the biggest weakness that it has in the current portfolio. So it's packed all the goodies that you get on the top-end variant into the diesel variant so that customers have little to complain about.
But the new Corolla feels more confident to drive from the previous generation with a more responsive electric power steering. The handling feels better too. The suspension setup works well, with the car handling the poor roads in the city and not flinching at high speeds or sharp turns. But the overall drive dynamics still fall short of, say, that Octavia or even the Fluence. A serious effort seems to have been made to give the interiors of the new Corolla a more premium design than the outgoing model. The dashboard layout is neat and layered with a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment console in the center. On a sunny day, the screen is plagued with too much reflection and it especially hampers the display output from the rear camera. The rectangular air vents are well placed with a digital clock in the middle. The steering mounted controls look a bit dated, but they're easy to use. The instrument cluster is neat and bright with a digital display in between the dials. The overall fit and finish are a big improvement, but Toyota probably could have done more to outdo the Octavia and the Elantra.
Now the rear seat of the new Corolla Altis is a really nice place to be in, not just because of the leather seats which are nice, firm and comfortable, but also because of the overall space factor having gone up. That's largely due to the overall wheelbase having gone up by about 100 millimeters. That means the knee room is much better inside this cabin. Also you get extra goodies sitting in the rear seat like the reading lights in the rear seat, as well as these seats which can be reclined for extra comfort.
That is a segment first, folks, and backseat owners would appreciate that. Driver and passenger airbags come standard across variants, but the ABS with electronic brake force distribution and brake assist comes only on the diesel variants and the top-end petrol variant. Diesel variants now get all the features available on the top-end petrol variant to justify the price difference. Toyota might have made headway with the latest Corolla Altis, especially with its bolder design and additional features, but it could have pushed the envelope a bit further. The car has been launched in 5 petrol and 4 diesel variants, and prices range between 12 lakh rupees and 17 lakh rupees for the petrol models and between 13 lakh rupees and 17 lakh rupees for the diesel variants.
That's the new Corolla. React to it. Tell us how you like it. Now, start-stop technology isn't revolutionary anymore, but bringing it into the mass motorcycle segment might just end up being extremely revolutionary for Hero. It's a good move. It's a nice technology play as well from this company. But does it really save you fuel? Is it enough to justify the USP tag that the old aging Splendor nameplate is getting with this iSmart? Well, Kailash had some time with the bike and has answers to all those questions.
At first glance, it may look like a Splendor NXG, but this is not a repetitive rebadge from Hero. This right here is the Splendor iSmart, and what sets it apart from the slew of Splendors in the competition is the nifty i3S technology.
Yes, it's lean and it's green and it's got something called the i3S technology. In layman's language, it stands for idle, start and stop. Now remember, this is a technology which is usually found on micro hybrids and a lot more expensive cars, a first for a 100cc motorcycle. So what it actually does is that it cuts off the ignition while the motorcycle is idling. As a result, it sips lesser fuel, puts out lower CO2 emissions, and you get bragging rights for being lean, green, and also having technology that is found on more expensive cars.
Powering the iSmart is the modest 97.2cc motor that kicks out 7.7 bhp and churns out 8.04 newtons of torque. Honestly, the iSmart is not engaging nor exciting to ride, but it has adequate power to trundle around town. The novelty really is the start-stop function that is tailor-made for the city.
So I've hit a traffic signal now. Allow me to demonstrate how this actually works. All you got to do is put it to neutral, release the clutch, and within 5 seconds the engine cuts itself out. Wait for some time and it's cut itself out. Now all you got to do to breathe life back into it is pull the clutch, slam the gears, and off you go.
Out on the road, the start-stop works well. The only minor niggle, you have to hit neutral to engage it. So at city crawls, you can't really reap the fuel-saving benefits of the start-stop function. Fuel efficiency figures stand at 92 kilometers to the litre. Compared to its cousin, the Splendor NXG, it's a marginal bump up of 4 kilometers to a litre of petrol. Doesn't sound like much? Well, consider this. If your weekly commute is 150 kilometers, that's 600 kilometers a month. On a regular Splendor NXG, you would consume 6.81 litres of fuel. On the iSmart, the figure is 6.52 litres, which amounts to an annual saving of 3.5 litres of fuel. However, the savings figures could go up if your daily commute is dotted with a lot of traffic stops. Kudos to Hero for kitting the Splendor with start-stop technology, but it needs to now take things further to make sure that the savings, thanks to the iSmart technology, are even more substantial. That will then really appeal to consumers. Twist the throttle and the iSmart gets to 60 km an hour in a swift fashion and stays planted till about 80 km per hour. The 4-speed gearbox is precise and the clutch is light. Glitches include a small rear view mirror that doesn't tell you much about the traffic tailing you.
Now another problem is the 130 mm drum brake up front. I mean, it lacks any sort of bite when you clamp down. It's okay at city speeds, but when you have to execute a sudden stop, it fails to inspire confidence. A disc brake on option would have been really nice.
Priced at a practical 48,550 rupees ex-Delhi, the iSmart is going to find favour with the commuter who wants to squeeze out more mileage out of every litre of petrol. So, should you buy one?
Now, after spending a good 7 hours with the iSmart, I have come to the conclusion that it is a very comfortable commuter motorcycle. With spruced up looks and nifty technology like the start-stop, it is definitely going to find favour amongst the cost-conscious Indian consumer. Have to say, Hero has got fair amount of stuff right, and the Splendor iSmart sure does look promising.
It is time for a short break here, folks, but we've got our sector snapshot just before we slip into that, and more details on that Audi A8L as promised on the other side of that break. Welcome back. I'm driving the new A8L now, and we have all the details coming up. Now, this isn't the car to be driving. Quite honestly, most consumers who get this car are going to be back there. That's a pretty luxurious single seat. You've got all sorts of functions in that seat as well. But I will always be right up here. Here's the review. The facelifted Audi A8L aims to try and hook buyers on looks and technology more than creature comforts or power. Not that it skims there either. The timing of this launch is really interesting because remember, the S-Class seems to be running away with the market globally, not just in India, and so the PI coming from Audi on the A8, like I said, this is perhaps the best time for it. The car maintains its large proportions. At first glance, you don't instantly realize that it is a new car, as it's still very much the third generation A8. So of course it's a superficial makeover. There isn't really a whole lot that's changed with the engines. There is a difference on one of the diesels, I will tell you that in a second. But the real story when it comes to the face, it's right in here. The headlamp cluster has a whole lot of stuff that's going on right now that's new. Everything LED, that's become standard now, and you've also got dynamic turn indicators, a new signature daytime running light strip as well. A few more details on how the matrix LED system works. Before that, I have to say I liked the pre-facelift daytime running light strip better, as it defined the car more. The matrix LED light is highly sophisticated. The entire headlamp cluster is made up of different all-LED components. The high beam module itself has 25 different LEDs. The whole system creates possibilities to have 1 billion different light distribution options. There is a camera that recognizes oncoming cars and cuts glare to them. The system also links to GPS, so the car knows where you're going and allows the best illumination of the geography and road ahead. And this includes cornering lights. And the entire system is completely electronic, no mechanical parts to make it run. Now the engine lineup for India remains unchanged, so you'll still have the same variants, but as it does happen with most facelifts, the engines get a little bit of a retuning as well to try and squeeze out a little extra power from them. In the case of the 4.2 TDI, there's a lot more because you're getting 35 horses more than what you had before, so that's going to make a little bit of a difference. Sadly, we don't have the diesels with us here in Dubai today, but what I can also tell you is that the W12 variant will also not get to India in a hurry. It's not going to arrive till the middle of the year. The 4-litre V8 I'm driving is ample and offers a generous 414 bhp along with a peak torque of 600 Nm. India also gets the 3-litre TDI with 247 bhp and 580 Nm of torque, and the unit we will see most buyers likely opting for, the 4.2 TDI that I mentioned, which now has 385 bhp and 850 Nm on board. On the inside, you have a luxurious cabin with massage function for all passenger seats, a panoramic roof, Bose sound system and loads more. Prices for the new A8L start from 1,12.95 lakh rupees, ex-showroom Delhi. Now that 30 bhp more that I said that the new TDI engine has, guess what? Audi decided not to bring that to India, so we get the unupdated version, if you will. It's a bit strange and disappointing, but the car is still really smooth. I've had some fun driving it today, good power delivery and good gear changes as well. Now, let's talk about that updated Tata Aria. Prices have gone down, it's looking more attractive, but is the car overall better?
In 2010, Tata ushered in the Aria. It was a bit of everything. It had space, some snob value, and it was kinda SUV-like, what with its 4x4 capability. But the Aria failed to create any flutter because of its price tag.
Yes, Tata did spawn an all-new segment with a butch crossover packed with features and a 4x4 option too, but soon they realized people aren't really going out and buying these cars. You know why? They were put off by the pricing, because in 2010 even the base 4x2 model costed a whopping 12.91 lakhs. But now Tata is sweetening the deal by cutting the sticker price by a good 3 lakh rupees. So now the 4x2 base model can be all yours for 9,95,000, and even the full fat 4-wheel drive option is cheaper by a good 75,000 rupees.
With the entry-level LX sporting a sub-10 lakh sticker price, it's clear that Tata is taking a stab at the segment leader, the Toyota Innova. And while there are no radical changes to the sheet metal, there are a few cosmetic changes.
Now if you look hard, probably you will notice the front headlamps now get a blacked out treatment. On the sides it's pretty much the same except for the Aria decal. Now at the rear, all that's new is clear lens tail lamps. Now I really wish I had a long list of cosmetic changes to tell you about, but I'm afraid that'd be it.
But there is more than what meets the eye. The real work has gone in retuning and refining the 2.2-litre Varicord diesel engine. Thanks to the tuning tweaks, it now puts out 148 bhp, 10 bhp more than the previous Aria. The engine now comes across as more refined.
Now the problem with the previous Aria was that it lacked the low-end grunt. I mean, the moment you went below 2000 RPM, the car would just go limp. I'm pleased to report that problem has been fixed, because the new Aria you get all the 320 Newton meters from as low as 1500 RPM. As a result, you don't have to constantly work the gears to keep the engine on the boil. The gearbox is a little rubbery, the gear shifts are not notchy or precise. And though it's a short throw gearbox, you still do feel a little lost shuffling the gears. So the gearbox could really use some work.
But But it's not free of flaws. The interiors are not up to the mark for a car in this class, and well, that was a huge sticking point earlier as well. The top-of-the-line 4x4 Pride trim does come with a fair amount of kit. You get 6 airbags, traction and stability control, anti-lock brakes and brake distribution. But it seems the changes all come down to the new prices. And now Tata will hope to finally make a dent in the Toyota Innova sales numbers.
Next week on the program, it's the super-duper red-hot M3 and M4 from BMW. That story is from Portugal and it's coming to you next week, as I said. Besides that, we also have for you the special insight that we managed to get from Tata Motors management on the kind of plan the company has going forward, the zest and bolt included. You also have the chance to ask them your questions, anything you might want to know from them. Here is how you can do that. I'll leave you with that. In the meanwhile, remember, 8:30 p.m. every weeknight on Auto Prime is where you can get your daily dose of auto, and that's on NDTV Prime. Please wear your seatbelts, wear your helmets.
Tata Motors will first unleash the Bolt hatch and Zest subcompact sedan in a couple of months. Is this make or break time, or will the Zest and the Bolt lead to a larger product onslaught? All the answers on CNB next week. You can join us for a live chat on Twitter with the Tata Motors top management and ask your questions directly. Saturday at 8 p.m. on NDTV Prime.